Oh my god, there's a new set in the Elder Scrolls Online Necrom chapter that's gonna change companions forever. And no, it's not a clickbait title for once, here's the proof. I've taken multiple companions through the hardest overland world bosses with ease, whether they tank, DPS, it's mind-numbing survivability and damage, as well as group utility. So what's new? Telvanni Efficiency, a new 5-piece coming craftable Necrom chapter on June 5th PC and June 20th on consoles. The 5-piece, when you have a living companion, reduce the cooldown of their abilities by 50%, while you do not have a living companion, reduce the cost of your magic, stamina, health, and ultimate abilities by 8%. This makes a massive difference in them surviving, being able to cast abilities to heal themselves, do damage, get out of bad situations, and you will see a massive improvement in their gameplay as well as yours if you like using companions. So I hope this got you sold. It's actually massive improvement, and I was shocked because usually they die so quickly, but with the right gear, the right skill combinations, and the right positioning in your build, you will see a dramatic increase in their performance and overall the satisfaction of playing them. Let's jump in the game, explain the gear, skills, which companions you should use, and why. Jumping in game here, and I'm on the Necrom PTS, still under testing in Apocrypha. This is kind of the new zone, pretty cool looking. So let me show you the 5-piece that we got, Telvanni's Efficiency. So how I'm running this is actually with the Oakensoul build. If you don't know, Oakensoul Stormmaster, specifically a 5-piece that most folks ran with it, got nerfed. So what I did is I just swapped in this Telvanni's Efficiency 5-piece, crafted in medium armor, magic enchants, just like I would do Storm Masters, and then I paired it with Oakensoul and Sergeants. But it's craftable, so you can play it as a tank, healer, DPS. You can play it whatever you want, as long as it's active at all times on your body, jewelry, whatever. That's the most important piece of this. So let's get into the companion system and show you just how powerful the reduced cooldowns are. If I look at this companion Bastion and we go into the skills, okay, I'm using him as a tank, and I use Isobel. Those are the two strongest you're going to use, and I will explain. So the reason I like Bastion, especially as a tank or a fill-in for any of your companions' choice, it has a very unique buff called Searing Weapons. So this right here increases your light and heavy attack damage by 15% for 8 seconds. Now, this applies to you, your group, especially if you bring it along to a trial, it doesn't matter. It will increase your damage significantly. Think heavy attack 1-bar builds with this, almost entirely 100% uptime, because look at the active time. Active time duration 8 seconds, cooldown 8 seconds. There is actually a particular trait that reduces cooldowns on your companions, but the 50% is just so powerful anyways, it almost keeps 100% uptime on really important buffs. So for instance, we have this Bastion tank here. Another example of this would be from Fighters Guild and Ritual of Salvation. 20% reduction in damage when you place this rune down. So it does have a channel, it casts on yourself just like the Fighters Guild rune, but Bastion takes so much less damage, and he can maintain very high uptimes on this, reducing his frequency of dying. And then of course, he needs a heal because he's going to get chunked, he's going to take damage. Look at this. Cast time 0.4 seconds, casting on himself, duration 8 seconds is the buff, but the cooldown is 6 seconds. So he's going to cast it, get a big heal, and reduce their damage by 20%. Massive reduction in damage. You will notice this, trust me. If you want to play this as a tank, for instance, and keep the pressure off you, which Bastion did, the only issue I had with him is when he wouldn't get out of red. You actually can command the companions to come back to. So remember, whatever you're using the companions for, they'll go to the target you're heavy attacking, especially on a 1-bar Sork or a 1-bar heavy attack build. This works fantastic, just automatically targeting, running to the target. So 2 taunts I like to recommend using. This one, Provoke, range 5 meters, 6-second cooldown, and it's going to taunt him for 15 seconds. So if you're constantly frequently switching targets, that's not always going to be active. So think about using the Undaunted skill here, Savage Instincts. Has a much longer range, so when you start combat, it's going to parse out going left to right on your skill bar what you want to do. So that's why I have the number 1 thing, you're increasing damage. So it's going to cast that first, shoot out a range taunt, close the distance, put the rune down, puncture, and then heal himself whenever he needs to. And this will get you through a ton of content. Honestly shocked. So you're running on problems with Bastion as a tank. You can command your pet or companion with the Y key, and you can recall them for me on my right mouse. So if I'm targeting something and Bastion runs and wants to mess with red stuff, I can just bring him back to me. So you can actually have some active ability with this as a tank if they're just standing in red and you're allowing them to die. Recall them and then retaunt with a heavy attack to get them in the right position. Takes a little bit of gameplay, but their survivability will increase dramatically. Now that we've talked about Bastion, we've shown just how powerful he can be, I want to switch gears and talk about Isobel, another fantastic companion, whether you play her as a DPS, melee, range, or a tank or a healer. Here's why. So Isobel is like your Templar's prototype, and every companion has some type of buff or debuff they provide. Bastion was released in Blackwood, Isobel here in High Isles, and 2 new ones coming out with the Necrom chapter. They do require a purchase of the chapter, so just be aware of that, but they can be handy companions in battle. See what I did there? The uniqueness in the buff here with Isobel is this penetrating strikes or puncturing sweeps jabs like the Templar has. So it has a duration of 1 second, it's a channel, it has a cooldown of 2.5 seconds. So it does magic damage in front of them just like, you know, normal jabs would, but it has something else that comes with it pretty interesting. Nearby allies are granted a boon that increase the damage of their light and heavy attack by 50%. Also 2.5 second cooldown, so you're going to be casting this frequently. How I usually do this with her is I have her get a gap closer so she can close the distance and then use this as a second or the first ability on her bar, so she's casting it frequently in melee range. And then that plays into the Oaken Soul heavy attack, or even if you're a light attack weaver. It's free damage, and you can have a massive amount of uptime, especially if you proc off balance. So think heavy attack 1-bar builds, link in the description below if you want all of those. But this pairs very, very well because there's another skill here, the Gap Closer here, charges it and sets off balance. Isobel is literally perfect to use this 5-piece in replacement of Storm Masters, and also use the companion to buff up your light and heavy attacks, also passively set off balance. It's a match made in heaven. Just keep in mind that I found it best for her to be a melee DPS. You will have to take some pressure as a range caster if you're going to use this, or you can play a tank and have her to the DPS. It doesn't matter, but I would highly recommend put her in a tank form if you struggle specifically with handling pressure and you die frequently. So we're going to use medium armor as a DPS, heavy armor as a tank, obviously, and then light armor as a healer. You put your mouse over here, it kind of tells you what it does. Increases damage, right? But the real nice thing here is this Vanish skill. 5 or more pieces of medium armor. Basically, it's a heal to full, and you can use it every 5.7 seconds with this reduced cooldown. Now, I actually have some gear on her, which is the Quicken. So this is the trait that actually reduces cooldown. On my tank, I use either Vigorous to increase health or the other one that reduces damage taken. I like as a tank the increase to health rather than damage reduction. The reason being is your heals are based off your max health. So if you have a ton of max health, you have a ton of healing. And then you use those 2 abilities I talked about to reduce damage. With her, you want really high uptime on penetrating strikes, and if she's playing in melee range, she's going to take pressure a lot. 5.7 second heal to full, you will see a dramatic increase in her survivability. It's insane. Let's take a look at Mirri real quick, who came out in Blackwood that makes a decent ranged healer and how you would spec her. So here's Mirri. I have her in light armor, and I have the soothing trait on her. So the reason we're going to use light armor is you get access to this flow. Increase healing by 1%. Talks about this and decrease the cooldown of break free. Not that important. Once you have 5 or more pieces, you get haste, which basically makes your cooldowns more frequently. So as a healer with a 50% reduction in cost, you're casting healing so frequently. The downside is with having a healer, you're going to have to take all the pressure. If you can do that and just need some simple extra healing, she makes fantastic healer, or all of them actually do. So you have these really powerful heals in the skill line. You combine it with 1 heal or more in your actual skill line as well, with Mirri being life absorption. And then you have that haste one here, so you're just casting them very, very frequently. So if we take a look at the Restoration Staff heal, this is a real massive burst of damage shield. 26,000 damage shield, lasts 6 seconds. And the cooldown is 4 seconds. You get into pressure and it's just constant healing. And so that's how I would set them up. We actually have custom builds on Deltiasgaming.com. Check the link in the description below on all the companions, including the latest ones in Necrom we will have up. Now, let's take this live. I'll just play my 1-bar Sork, and let's just go see how this does with an actual tank and a 1-bar Sork. Okay, here we are. I got Bastion in all vigorous purple gear. I got his skills right here. So simply gonna tank and spank this with a lot of burst healing, and I can provide a bit of healing as well if he gets in trouble using my pet as the 1-bar Oaken Soul build. Simply swapped out Storm Masters. Let's get in the action. I'll kind of narrate my gameplay and my thoughts, which, yeah, are kind of good, not to brag. Okay, this one is kind of a pain in the butt. High Isles, World Boss. Let's show you how this works. So I'm gonna pre-buff with Critical Surge, allow me to do some healing first. I'm gonna tag him here with an attack. You'll see Bastion run in, buff up our light and heavy attack damage, and now it's time to go to work. So I'm just gonna not die in the first 30 seconds and have to redo this, drop my atro, and I'm gonna clear out some ads. Now the issue is I gotta make sure that I keep my heavy attacks on this guy so Bastion's tanking him off me. And you can see his HP is pretty high up there. So I'm gonna go back here, and this is why if you're gonna change targets frequently, having multiple taunts is really useful. So you see he cast that big burst heal and put that big rune on the ground. See that rune? That's that huge damage reduction that pairs very, very well. Look at the uptime on the rune. He just cast it again. He just got done casting it. Buff my armor weapons up so you can see just how powerful they are. And you can see my volatile familiar here is about to die. For Bastion, not so much. My pets are dying and Bastion is not. I would never have thought I'd see the day. But now we're gonna have to keep peppering them because our constant ads that we're gonna have to deal with are just a lot for us. So I'm gonna do some heal, rotate out. You can also have Bastion do some AoE with Talons if you want to get some of that ad pressure off you. But usually on this build here, I can handle 1 or 2, as long as he just maintains taunt on the big guy. So, are my volatile familiar dead? Bastion's still hanging in there. Gonna recast him, just kind of strafe and rotate, maintain my curse on him, and let the pets do the work. And then I'm gonna go back, full block here, put my blockade up, and just kind of calmly rotate. As Bastion basically heals himself. So he casted ult there, then he casted that ability. Now you can see he's low, boom, he healed himself. That was not me for 10,000. That damage reduction of the room is huge, and you can see he's just sitting in there, face tanking like an absolute legend. Gang. For once, this ain't a clickbait video. Honestly, shocked about this change. Check the link in the description below for the builds, the 1-bar builds, the companion builds, everything. If you get something out of this, go craft this set. Put it on your body if you like companions. Look, they're not for everybody, but I know a lot of the community loves them, and this is going to make them significantly better for you. Shout out to Icy Fire, also a YouTuber, link in the description if you want his information, who kind of keyed me on to this. I wasn't even aware this was going to be a thing, so I appreciate you, Icy Fire. Thanks for giving me a heads up. Also, check me out at twitch.tv/Deltiasgaming, where my mom claims I'm the best streamer alive. Thanks for watching.